Democrats tonight saying texts in which a State Department official made it clear the president did not want any quid pro quo with Ukraine were taken out of context. So just minutes ago, they released dozens of additional texts shedding more light on the involvement of the State Department officials in efforts to get Ukraine to clean up corruption and to investigate Burisma. Now, that's the firm that Joe Biden's son Hunter was associated with. Democratic chairman of 3 committees writing this tonight. The president and his aides are engaging in a campaign of misinformation and misdirection in an attempt to normalize the act of soliciting foreign powers to interfere in our elections. Now, as for these text messages, we're going through them. They do include a lengthy back and forth between State Department officials. One text by Ukraine Special Envoy, former now, Kurt Volker, apparently outlining his efforts, working on a statement that Ukraine possibly would be asked to commit to. Never happened, but it reads in part, "We intend to initiate and complete a transparent and unbiased investigation of all available facts and episodes, including those involving Burisma and the 2016 elections, which in turn will prevent the occurrence of this problem in the future." So does Volker's testimony today undercut the Democrats' push for impeachment? Here's how GOP Congressman Mark Meadows characterized it tonight.
What we do know is there was definitely no quid pro quo. I mean, it came out over and over. It was asked probably 20 different times.
So let's dig in with National Security Attorney Bradley Moss and Fox News contributor Andrew McCarthy. Welcome to you both.
Hi, Shannon.
Okay, so in addition to that, 2 ranking members of committees, Republicans Jim Jordan and Devin Nunes, said this about the testimony today. The facts we learned today undercut the salacious narrative that Adam Schiff is using to sell his impeachment ambitions. We hope the American people get to read the transcript of today's testimony and see the truth. Andy, how quickly do you think that might or might not happen?
Well, it could happen right away. And it should happen right away. I think what everybody ought to be tired of at this point, Shannon, is these kind of third-party descriptions of the core evidence that we're supposed to be looking at. So, you know, we had the call between Zelensky and Trump, for example. That's the evidence. That's the main evidence of what went on here. And what we've gone through for the last week or so are people's different characterizations of it and descriptions of it. And what we're supposed to take away from that, it seems to me, is that you have to say either that it's perfect, as the president says, or that it's impeachable, as the Democrats say. And I think that, you know, for the most part, most sensible people look at this and say the president shouldn't leverage his control over American national security purely to do political research. What mainly was done here was the president asked another country to help with an ongoing Justice Department investigation, which is appropriate. To the extent he also threw the Bidens in there, that's probably something that was poor judgment to do. And you could say it was certainly not perfect, but impeachable? They're not going to impeach him over that. I mean, the Democrats may impeach him.
There are different standards, but we'll have to see, because maybe we'll get this transcript today. We know the IG is heading up to testify behind closed doors tomorrow. Maybe we hear from him, too. I don't know. But in the meantime, the Wall Street Journal editorial board says this. Their headline is "The Whistleblower Executive." It says now any bureaucrat who hears about a conversation can file a complaint that overrides a president's ability to speak with foreign leaders with the expectation of privacy. We are in dangerous constitutional waters. Bradley.
No, that's quite simply wrong as a matter of law. When this whistleblower submitted the complaint through the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act, there is a very specific exclusion in that statute that prohibits the complaint being validated merely based off a difference of opinion on public policy matters. If this was simply about reducing sanctions or something along, or, you know, the extent to which we provide, you know, assistance to the Ukrainians, that would not be allowed under the statute. That could not be validated. The reason the ICIG found this valid, the reason this went forward, was because of the overall circumstances between the phone call and the surrounding details with Rudy Giuliani and Ambassador Volker and the others that suggested there was possibly corrupt intent, if not a quid pro quo, to condition assistance to the Ukrainians on their willingness to investigate the Bidens. And I know that you had mentioned some of these texts that you guys are still just going through. There's a July 25th text from Volker to one of President Zelensky's aides where he makes it clear a visit between the President Zelensky and President Trump is conditioned on the extent to which the Ukrainians are going to investigate 2016.
Well,
hours later, they have the phone call where the president throws out.
Well, and there was more to that in that the administration has said repeatedly that they wanted corruption of all kinds investigated, and they weren't sure that Zelensky was 100% on board, because that's no secret that goes on in Ukraine. So it sounded to me more broad than just that, but of course they would want 2016 included. I want to read something from the New York Times in an opinion piece. They quote a Notre Dame professor under this headline: "Will Trump ever leave the White House?" They say, "We should not assume that either a 2020 election defeat or impeachment/conviction will remove Trump from the White House." He goes on to talk about how the president is stirring people up. He's a big fan of the Second Amendment. It's rather doomsday, Andy. I mean, people seem pretty fired up.
I think that's ludicrous. You know, everybody should take a deep breath. I just think that's ludicrous.
All right, Bradley, you care to weigh in?
The president's one who likes to use the hyperbolic rhetoric. He likes to throw out things about, corrupt media, and it's a coup d'etat, and everybody's trying to take him down. This is the constitutional process.
Do you think he leaves the White House if he's
Impeachment
impeached?
Is allowed.
If he's impeached, or if he loses the 2020 election, do you have any doubts he will leave the White House?
I have no doubt that Donald Trump, in the end, will leave the White House if he is removed from office or otherwise loses the election.
We'll leave it there. Bradley and Andy, great to have your legal minds. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely.